Have you ever set a big goal, felt super motivated at first, and then completely lost steam a few weeks later? Don't worry, you're not alone. The problem isn't you, it's the way your brain is wired. But there are two powerful strategies that can change everything: visualization and identity-driven self-talk. These are the exact methods that I used to stay motivated while learning Italian, and they can help you stay on track with your long-term goals too. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Charlie Bailey and I'm the owner of Raw UK, an online course business. Here on YouTube, we help small business owners, founders, solopreneurs and multi-passionate professionals level up their skills so that they can thrive doing what they love. So let's get into it. So January has passed and that hope-filled, exciting list of goals and New Year's resolutions that you were sure you were going to smash this year has already gone out the window. The train has come off the rails after just a few weeks and you're feeling like a failure yet again. Don't worry, you're not alone. There's a common theory that you can build motivation by discipline and willpower alone. You just have to keep making yourself do the thing even when you don't feel like it. And whilst I quite like the idea of this, the reality is that for most people, this just doesn't work. Our goals and New Year's resolutions are often longer term, difficult things for us to achieve. No one sets goals for things they can already do easily. I don't set goals to cook more often because it's something that I really enjoy doing and I'll happily cook 2 or 3 times a day. Instead, I set goals which are much more difficult for me to achieve without effort, like exercising regularly or learning a language. These things aren't going to happen on their own and they aren't necessarily going to happen quickly. So I need to be more intentional about achieving them. But the problem is when something is difficult or unnatural to us or will take a long time, it's really hard to prioritize them when that initial motivation starts to wear off. We'll always find something more important to do with our time. However, there is some good news. Motivation isn't actually about willpower, it's about how we think. And we're going to look at 2 strategies to help you stay motivated even when you reach the slump. And the first one is visualization. Okay, imagine that this is the year that you've finally decided that you're actually going to write that short non-fiction book about no-dig gardening that you've been meaning to write for the last 3 years. So you write that goal down in your journal, you highlight it in pretty colours, you feel super motivated about it. That week you schedule an hour a day to start writing. You feel great, you've started to map out the structure of the book, you've fleshed out some of chapter 1 and you've started to get some words down on paper. Week 2, you're still feeling pretty motivated. You're adding more info into chapter 1, you're writing and you're researching and you're managing to keep those 1-hour slots in your diary. But then week 3 comes around and you're not making quite as much progress as you thought you would. You're still working on chapter 1, but now you're having multiple mental blocks and you start thinking that writing a book takes longer than you'd hoped. Week 4 and you've only actually managed to set aside 2 hours for writing because you really do need to prioritise other things, not just this book. Week 5, you've barely even thought about writing. And when you do think about it, you actually feel a sense of guilt because you're not doing it. That pretty highlighted line in your journal now makes you cringe instead of fill you with excitement. Now instead, imagine that we rewind to the beginning of the process. You decide you want to write the book, you write it in your journal, you highlight it in pretty colours, you put the time slots in your diary, but you don't stop there. Right at this beginning point, you pause for a few minutes and you imagine what it would actually look like to finish this book. Maybe you imagine the cover of the final printed book, holding it in your hands and flicking through the pages. You see your name on the cover and some blurb about you, the author, on the back page. Maybe you imagine receiving that first box of final printed copies and having friends and family asking to buy one from you. Maybe you're even signing some copies. You imagine updating your LinkedIn profile to say, author of No Dig Vegetable Patch, a guide for the conscientious gardener. You imagine seeing your listing on Amazon or your bespoke landing page where people can go and buy a copy of your book online. You build a mental picture in your mind of what it will look like, feel like, maybe even taste like, smell like, sound like to achieve your final goal of writing that book. Now I get it, this just sounds like you're sat there daydreaming, but it's actually such a powerful technique. Our brains often don't distinguish between thoughts and reality. When we vividly imagine a scenario, it triggers our brains to release the same chemicals that it would as if we were actually experiencing that scenario in real life. So when we do this visualization exercise and we see ourselves in our mind's eye holding that final book, smelling its freshly printed pages, seeing our name on the cover, it will trigger our brains to produce a whole heap of happy chemicals and create a powerful neural connection between the goal and the picture of us achieving it. It kind of gives us a foretaste of what we could have if we keep going and finally achieve that goal. And when we have that clear, compelling mental image, we can return to it again and again, releasing those same chemicals again and again to help us stay motivated. To give you an example, I personally use this when I learn Italian. It can take a really long time to learn a language, and I tried with Italian multiple times over the years and never really got anywhere. But during 2020, when we had a lot more time at home, I decided I would try again. And right at the start, I painted this really visual, mental picture of me speaking Italian fluently with other people. I imagined myself reading books, specifically Harry Potter, in Italian, and I imagined myself being able to joke and laugh with others fluently in Italian. I actually went one step further and I pictured potential real-life conversations and scenarios that I might find myself in the future, and imagined the way that people might react to me when I spoke to them in their mother tongue. I actually ended up having dreams about it, but having that mental picture completely changed the outcome for me. It motivated me to practice for at least an hour every single day, sometimes up to 3 hours. I listened to podcasts, I watched YouTube videos, I was reading all the time, and I'm now at the stage where I can speak Italian without too much difficulty, and I'm currently on Harry Potter 5 in Italian. Now, visualization wasn't the only tool that I used to achieve my goal, but it was a huge factor in staying motivated along the way. So maybe if you've got your list of goals written down in your notebook, I'd encourage you to go through each one and spend a few minutes really imagining what it would look like for you to achieve that goal. Make the picture as vivid as you can, including as many of your senses as possible. Now, you may want to also write down what you're imagining, or maybe make a mood board on Pinterest or something like that. Anything to get your brain to experience the end outcome and to make that connection between working towards the goal and the end result. Talking of goals, one of mine for this year is to grow my YouTube channel. So if you're enjoying my content, please do like, subscribe, and share this video with someone else who might enjoy it too. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Our second strategy is to use identity-driven self-talk. Imagine telling yourself every day that you are a lazy person. You're so lazy, in fact, that this year you've decided to set yourself the goal of running a 10K race to force yourself to change. The problem is, as a self-professed lazy person, it's really hard to get yourself up off the sofa of an evening or to wake up early before work to make yourself go for a run. Lazy people, by definition, are lazy. They like sleeping in the mornings, and they like chilling on the sofa and doom scrolling. They don't like running trainers and lycra and cold wind on their faces. They don't like being out of breath or sweating. That is not the vibe of a lazy person. The problem here is that when we say things about ourselves like, I am a lazy person, we start to believe that thing about ourselves. And when we believe that about ourselves, it starts to become our identity, and we start to act in line with that perceived identity. This is a concept that I first came across in James Clear's book Atomic Habits, where he talks about this idea of identity-based habits. What I think this boils down to is self-talk, the things that we say about ourselves in our internal monologue. Imagine if the lazy person wanting to run the 10K actually told themselves regularly that they were a fit, healthy, athletic person. Imagine if they actually believed that about themselves and it started to become their identity. Do fit, healthy, athletic people prefer to sit on the couch for hours, or would they prefer to be out there clocking up the miles? Do they mind getting into their running gear and having the wind and the rain on their faces? Or do they see that as an opportunity to push themselves further? Does the fit, healthy, athletic person avoid sweating and heavy breathing? Or do they see that as the whole point of exercising and all part of increasing their fitness levels? They believe that they are fit, healthy, athletic, and so they act in line with that perceived identity. And we can do exactly the same. Going back to my language learning, ever since I was 14, I've had vocabulary become multilingual on my bucket list. I've always been fascinated by the idea of being able to speak multiple languages. And since 2020, when I finally worked out a method to learn Italian, that fire has well and truly ignited. And I want to one day become a polyglot, someone who speaks 4, 5, 6, maybe even more languages. So these days, I tell myself that I am an aspiring polyglot. And what does an aspiring polyglot do? They work on their languages daily. They make sure that they are listening, reading, speaking, writing regularly in each of their languages. They have regular conversation practice in their languages. They prioritize their language learning and maintenance of their languages. And so that's exactly what I do. And I'm currently able to speak or understand at least a little bit in 6 languages, including Italian and English. The words that we speak over ourselves are so powerful. And so I'd encourage you to sit down with your goals and work out what identity-driven self-talk you need to start adopting to shift your identity and start achieving them. So I'd love to hear if you try either of these strategies, either creating a really strong, vivid mental picture of you achieving that goal using visualization, or using identity-driven self-talk to change your perception and your beliefs about yourself so that you're more likely to achieve your goals. Please do let me know your thoughts and experiences down in the comments. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out my other content, and I'll see you in the next one.